Good morning and welcome back to my channel. This morning I'm going to review the Dewalt 20 volt 18 gauge. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Brad nailer. Now, what you have to pay attention to when you get one of these is this little line right here. Sold separately. In this case, this is sold without the charger and without the 20 volt battery. Now, I borrowed this from a neighbor. Luckily, she had a whole set of chargers and batteries for her other tools. Here's the gun. Notice I said gun. Couple things to keep in mind. It has got a safety right here. If you're used to using a battery drill, this is your forward and your reverse. That would be okay to fire. Press this side and that's locked, like safety on. You with me? Now, let me open up the chamber. There are just a few brads in there. When purchasing brads, it's really important to pay attention to. Remember, on the box it said 18 gauge. So when you're in purchasing brads, 18 gauge, this one happens to be 1.25 inches. And since I was doing some even more minor trim, here's 1 inch. That's what happens to be in the gun. We know we got a few brads in there. I'm locked out. I'm going to put the battery in. Okay? Now, key things. When this little trigger here is depressed, it starts to wind up. And then when you press the trigger, it will fire. Couple things to pay attention to. Your gauge. You have to purchase the right size brads. If you put 16 gauge brads in an 18 gauge gun, it will foul the tip and you will have repetitive jams, which is really annoying. Purchase the right things and kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. Keeps firing until the chamber is almost empty and then it stops. Now for my setup, sorry, this was sitting on the ground. Here's a scrap of my ceiling boards, and this is a piece of my crown molding. It's important to get a scrap piece and play with it. Now in my example, this is on the lower end, so down in the room, and this is against the ceiling. So that's got to fit like that. And then you take your brad nailer as best you can. Whoops, still got the safety on. Turn the safety off. You hear that? So now that nail went all the way in and I can't feel it. That's adjusted by this little turnbuckle here. And you see it in here. To me, it's kind of counterintuitive. But right now, it is set like at the top of the vision window, which means it goes in as far as possible. So this seems to turn opposite of the way that goes. But my point is, take yourself some samples, some scrap like this, and practice. That's not going to go in at an angle. We want to go in at a 45. Now I've tacked it to the table. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. You see the head of the nails came through. But that's good. When I feel here, I do not feel the head of the nails. So my depth is set properly. You can get them apart if you can get leverage. See? You have to pull carefully. But, oh, there it goes. Ah, that's what I was hoping for. So you see how I'm left with a brad sticking up? Now maybe you can see it. So this is called a shoemaker plier. See the end of that? So this, you can grab the nail and just give it a pull. If you don't have one of these in your toolkit, I'm amazed because I find the thing is very useful. A few more key details. You can see, if you forget, this will take a 5/8 to 2 1/8 brad nail 18 gauge is right there on the side. It's right here again. This wheel rotates and changes your depth. Some other things I wanted to show you. This little bar here is used for removing a jamb. But here's the jamb removal. Gotta lift this. It opens up. See how that shows up, and you can see the brads? Now I've got to open this and push those back in. I'm not trying to lose them. Now when you're out of brads, there's usually like 6 brads left, and this yellow bar shows. Oops. Yeah, I have to close this. The real world. Now to close this, you have to get this little finger under these clips. And when you pull, you should feel the tension. Now this bar again was to push a jammed nail out of there. Again, reiterating, don't put a 16 gauge nail in an 18 gauge machine. See, the yellow is not showing, so this will run if I put the battery in it. One other little switch I missed. Right now this is set to single fire. You can do multiple fires and just keep going. I find that's kind of dangerous with this, but many guys like using it. So I use it in this fashion.